Hey, can you do me a favor real quick?
Never.
Call this number for me. 458-666-4355.
Happy birthday to
I hate you.
Happy birthday to you.
All right. IMDb said it was a disturbing message. I feel extremely disturbing message. I feel a little let down. That wasn't extremely disturbing, but all right.
Well, that was a movie.
Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Justin, and today we're giving our first thoughts on Longlegs. It's a new horror thriller, psychological horror film by Oz Perkins, who I just found out is the son of Anthony Perkins, so that's interesting. He wrote and directed it. It's starring Nicolas Cage. It's also got Micah Monroe, Blair Underwood, and Alicia Witt in it. And in case you don't know anything about it, you don't know what it is, it follows a female FBI agent who is trying to discover who this Longlegs serial killer is, who seemingly is killing people without ever getting close to them, not touching them, not doing anything, but then they all die. So, yeah, a horror thriller kind of thing. A lot of people were comparing it to Silence of the Lambs. Other people kind of compared it to Seven. It's not really either of those. It's much more in the horror category, but I get why. I mean, there's an FBI agent, there's a cop trying to figure out serial killer stuff. This movie is, to me, without getting into spoilers yet, more Stephen King-y than those. I thought a lot of this felt very Stephen King-esque, for better or worse. There were some good things about it that reminded me of Stephen King and some bad things that remind me of Stephen King. But before I go on a rant, what did you feel about it, Justin?
You know, I thought it was pretty solid, actually. Not knowing literally anything about it. I do agree. I guess Stephen King is a good description.
Yeah.
It's definitely in a somewhat similar vein to Silence and Seven, but then it takes a sharp departure.
Sure. Yeah.
In various ways. But, you know...
And Nicolas Cage ways.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, very different performances from one to the others. But
Yes.
I enjoyed it for what it was.
I'm going to ask you a question, because I feel a certain way about the movie. Did you feel like you had a kind of like a consistent enjoyment level of the movie, or did it go up or down dramatically at a certain point in the movie?
I'd definitely say it varied throughout the movie. I guess it dropped some towards, I guess you could call it part 3.
Yeah, I felt similarly too. Aside from the very beginning of the movie, or I guess I shouldn't say the very beginning, because the very beginning opens with like a flashback, and then you get some plot. And that section of plot after that, I was just completely confused and uninterested for like the first like 10 minutes there. Then after that, I got really into it. I was really enjoying it. And then, like you said, after a certain point, it's not like they necessarily jumped a shark or anything, because I was fine with the decisions they made. I just didn't feel like they did the decisions in any sort of interesting way or direction. And so I was like, I'm fine with going this way, but it kind of lost me. And then, as I mentioned, the Nicolas Cage thing, you say he has a very different performance from everybody else in this movie.
No, from like comparing his role to the other roles in like the similar role in Seven or Silence.
No, okay.
Very different from that.
Sure.
Yes.
I was gonna say he also has a very different performance from himself in this movie, because scene to scene, he was either amazing or terrible. And I kept being like, he would do something and I would want to laugh. And then the next moment he'd do something and be like, oh wow, that was really good. And it's weird because like I've seen plenty of movies where Nicolas Cage is so bad it's hilarious. Yeah. And I've seen a few movies where he's so good you're just like, he should get the Oscar. I've never seen a movie where he does both. What the hell was going on, Nick?
So it all depends on the pitch of his voice. Right? High pitch, not
once he gets up here and he's screaming. That was the first moment that lost me, because up until that moment, I was like, he's so good in this movie. We're locked in. It's locked in Nick Cage. He's good. And then he just gets in his car and inexplicably starts screaming. And I'm like, what was that about? And like, if it was a more nuanced performance or a different actor, maybe I would have been like, oh wow, this guy's crazy, man, this guy's weird. But because it's Nicolas Cage, you're not thinking any of that. You're just going, man, Nick Cage is
It's doing it again.
It's doing it again.
Yeah. That's a classic Nick Cage scream there.
And so there's a lot of things with his character that I'm like, when you think of crazy people, because he's playing a crazy person, they do weird things. They don't make sense. And so honestly, if it was not Nicolas Cage, I probably would have been able to appreciate the performance as a whole more.
I agree.
But so much of it, I was just distracted going, Nick, what are you doing, man?
When he lets himself get a little loose, a little crazy with the character, it definitely feels like we've seen it before from Nick Cage.
Yeah,
just being typical Nick Cage in a wig and some paint.
Yeah, and prosthetics on his face, which I didn't entirely understand why they chose to do that. I was waiting for some sort of explanation, like he had plastic surgery to look more like somebody else or something. They never say anything about that, but that's kind of par for the course in this movie. Is a lot of stuff just doesn't get explained or doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, at least. Maybe it's going over my head, but I mean, from the first scene on, he says something to the effect of, I'm wearing my long legs or something.
Yeah, it was at the very end of the first scene he said that.
And I was waiting for that to come back later and to make sense, and at no point did they ever bring that up.
I had no idea.
His character is Longlegs, but other than that being his name, they never say why or what that meant at all. And I'll mention it more in spoilers, but that's where like the Stephen King isms of it came along, where it's like stuff is just said and then you kind of have to go with it, because trying to understand it won't get you anywhere. You'll just be frustrated.
I like the performances for at least the main girl and Nick Cage sometimes. And
what was the male cop?
Oh yeah, I did like
Blair
him.
Underwood was my favorite thing about the movie by
Yeah,
far. I thought
Blair
he
was
was fantastic.
Blair was great when he was on camera.
The phone conversations though, when he just heard his voice, sucked. Hated those moments.
Hey, you can have those. I like her performance too. You could definitely feel like she had some deeper connection here, some past trauma keeping her stifled or whatever.
Yeah.
Something that we were going to unravel throughout this movie.
Yeah, and it was weird because I was like, for a while there, I couldn't decide, is she a bad actor or is the character just weird? And then I
felt like the character was supposed to be
just weird. Yeah, because especially there's a scene where she's sitting in the bedroom of this little girl. They're having the most awkward interaction ever, and I'm like laughing, and I'm like, am I supposed to be? I think so. Am I laughing with the movie or at the movie? I think it's with. I think so. But also that little girl is terrible. The line delivery, but even worse than the delivery, the scripting. Oz Perkins has definitely never spoken to a little girl or a child in his life, because he did not know how to write for a child at all. Unless this kid was supposed to be like a young Sheldon type or something. It's just like, this doesn't sound like a human.
What? That's what the youth say these days. It's what hots in these streets.
How they talk. She invited her to a birthday party. See, that's what kids do. Didn't invite anybody else to the birthday party apparently, but she invited her.
Hello, fellows.
I do think the movie also looked fantastic. I loved the look and the feel of the movie. Unfortunately for me, I think the movie was only okay to me. I thought when it wanted to be scary, it was. I thought the intensity was awesome. I just didn't think they did enough with it. And if they weren't going to prioritize scares over substance, I wanted a substance or a story that made more sense.
Yeah.
So I thought it looked good, didn't make a whole lot of sense, and prioritized style over substance, which frustrated me.
I definitely enjoyed the mystery until the third part. It was still alright, but not nearly as good. Not my where I would have wished it would have gone.
But okay, see, did you enjoy the mystery though? Because I didn't feel like we were involved in the mystery. The way she was cracking things, it's like we couldn't there was no way we could have figured it out, so we're just watching somebody figure stuff out off screen almost all the time, and I'm like, how are we involved in this as a viewer?
Okay, I enjoyed thinking I was going to.
Figure something out later
Yes.
that we never did.
Yes, I enjoyed the ride until I realized it was going off of the hill.
Okay, we need to open it. Okay, open it. It is. Oh my god. I was trying to make it to spoilers and I couldn't.
Because I was pretty fascinated with what was going on.
Me too.
With what was, I thought, going to shake out, and it's just not trying to get too spoilery, but the big difference between the movies it gets compared to and this movie really kind of broke my interest.
Yeah.
So.
And also, and it goes beyond storytelling, but we did briefly touch on it. You did. But there is a difference between Anthony Hopkins and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
And also Kevin Spacey and Nicolas Cage.
That's
frankly.
true, yeah. It is really true that just no other actor in this role would have just dragged us out in those like high energy moments.
Yeah.
Just Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I was even thinking of like comparing like something like Jim Carrey. Like even he, I feel like, wouldn't have been as distracting as Nicolas Cage. Like there's few actors
Probably
as
not as
distracting.
much,
It still wouldn't have been my first choice or anything. I
it-
actually read in the trivia that he had two choices: Nicolas Cage and another guy. Guess the other guy he had in mind, the director. You won't give up.
Matt Damon.
Brad Pitt. You were close.
Dang.
Why the fuck was Brad Pitt your other choice? What are you thinking? And maybe
Now-
the movie would have been better if
Now
it
I'm
was.
kind of curious
but like,
about that. Brad Pitt is Longlegs.
Huh? What is the correlation between Brad Pitt and Nicolas Cage? Can you see Brad Pitt in the car going, Mom, Dad, what? No. But yeah, anyway, I thought, see, I agree that it was enjoyable to an extent, and the actual ending won me back. I thought the third act as a whole lost me, but the final scene of the movie kind of won me back a little bit, because it was a good scene.
Yeah.
But overall, I think this movie just set the bar so high with how cool it was at first. There's a creepy scene fairly early on where she's alone in her house, and I'm like, this scene is so good.
Oh, yeah.
The intensity, the scares, just the subtlety of how this is playing out. I was like, oh my god, this is the horror movie. This is the movie of the year. And then it just and went from being this great movie to, oh, that was fine. That was pretty good, I guess. Just don't think about it too much. And I hate that I had to do that, make those caveats to enjoy it when it started so good. But hey, that's what Stephen King does. So very Stephen King-like in that way too.
I wonder if this is the horror movie of the year for me.
I still like Devil All the Time better. This was scarier than The Devil All the Time, but The Devil All the Time was a better movie.
That'd be the only thing that beats it. I'm trying to decide.
Well, yeah, there haven't been any good horror movies this year. I was so ready. I had pre-planned, like the first 15 minutes of the movie, I was like, I've got an opening where I'm just gonna be like, yes, finally! And then I was like, nope, I don't need that intro anymore.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no, the beginning of this movie was really good. That first scene was great.
It was! Because, like...
I love the style of it, too.
Yeah, the style and the camera angles
Yeah.
of it. It was quirky. Like, Nicolas Cage was quirky in the cuckoo, but I'm like, in a creepy way.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I'm
he's
like,
allowed to be subdued there.
Yeah.
He's
And
not
like,
screaming Nick Cage.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Also, I thought I was in theaters to see Longlegs, not Cuckoo. I watched the trailer for Cuckoo. That really tripped me up for a second. I was like, wait, Cuckoo's later, right? What is happening? And it's not a bad thing to have a really good start to a movie. But the problem is when you have a really good start, you need a really good payoff, and this movie didn't.
Yeah, that's definitely the problem with stories. People always can get it seems a lot easier to make a great start than to finish it out well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's rules about that. That's why Monty Python never had an ending to any of their sketches, because they said the final joke's the hardest one. So just don't have one. Just don't end it, and just start the next thing without ending it. Or it's like, it's funny bringing up Stephen King. I just last night saw an old interview, like 90s or 2000s. He was on Conan talking about he had this great idea for a book, but he could never finish it because he was like, all right, so you're at an airport, you're running to your flight or whatever, and your wife is like, I need to run to the bathroom first. I'm like, okay, but you got 5 minutes, we need to get to her gate. Goes in, waiting, she's not coming back out. Soon another couple comes, same thing. He's like, all right, come on, we go, but go and be quick. She goes in, doesn't come back out. Eventually there's a whole group of guys, and they're like, what is going on in there. Like, this isn't normal. Like, it's been half an hour. We've missed our flights. What's going on? This is weird. So they call security, and as security goes in and the door closes behind them, they hear screaming inside. And so then, like, oh no. So they call police. Like, there's something in there. Something's going on. So they send the police in, and this just keeps escalating. So it's like military. Like, they're sending everything in there. And he's like, and the thing is, I could never decide what was in there. And so it's like, that's how I feel like this was. It was like, I've got some cool ideas. What is it? I don't know. And there is a very obvious explanation to it, but the explanation is disappointing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, it does feel like that Stephen King thing, or a better explanation is like it, you know, it's like, oh, there's this creepy, evil, demonic clown. What is it? Is it? Oh, it's a spider. I'm like, what? Why is it a spider? I don't want it to be a spider, you know? If the ending had nailed it a little bit more, and there were moments of this movie that were fantastic. Movie of the year moments. Just the whole thing wasn't movie of the year, which was unfortunate to me. So, I don't know. I need to think about it more, because my gut reaction is to be a little harsher on it because I'm disappointed.
Fair.
So I want to take time and be nicer to it. But this is first thoughts. So do you have a rating?
I guess I could go maybe a 7.
I think maybe a 7 is a good response. Heavy on the maybe.
Yeah.
Because like right now I'm like, I'm gonna give it a 6 tops. But I'm like, you're mad right now. Just take a breather and admit that there was some good parts in there too. So I think it might be a light 7. I think probably a light 7 is probably the correct answer. It's just, oh man, it pisses me off when something is almost great and then falls apart. All right. That's what we had to think spoiler free. We're going to get into spoilers now though. So if you don't want anything spoiled, you should click away, go watch it, and come back then. But also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks guys, bye. So, spoilers. So yeah, the whole thing. Why don't you explain the plot, Justin? I'm just gonna play games on my phone.
It starts out years ago, presumably the main character, of course it is, as a young child is at her home, and then somebody says cuckoo from behind a corner. Creepy as shit.
She just sees a car driving up her driveway and is like, let me put on my winter jacket and take my tape recorder and my camera, and like, I assumed, oh, she knows this person and she's leaving. I was so confused. That's why later, by the way, I had the theory that it was her dad, which I wasn't right, but there was a connection between him and her mom.
No,
so,
yeah.
Okay, there was something there, but anyway.
Close enough. But yes, so she goes out to outside, and cuckoo comes from the corner, and she, of course,
she
like
passes
everybody
the
else,
building and doesn't look behind her. I'm
No.
like, he was clearly behind you the whole time. And she's like, he's not that way. He's not that way.
Where?
Where could he be? And
No
then
one
he goes, woohoo!
no one ever searches behind. You know,
Why?
above and behind. These are the directions they take you from the
There's
prize.
a building and you see somebody poke around the corner and then dart back. You walk straight past the building.
Yep.
Go, where is he? Where do you think he is, motherfucker? Also, the camera angle doesn't show the top of his face, which I
Yeah.
loved because it's like her perspective.
It was nice not to get a good visual of him at first. Made it to
Yeah, by the time you finally saw him, it was kind of disappointing, but
yeah. It made him a lot creepier at first.
yeah.
And then he mentions his long legs. What was it he put on his long legs?
Yeah.
Or-
Oh,
gotta
I
put
want
on
my long legs today. And I
Yeah,
was like, what does that mean?
and yeah, he's dropping off a gift,
Yeah.
and he's got and then he mentions his long legs, and then it flashes to the actual movie.
Yeah.
He's an adult now.
And then from that point on, the whole first scene after that, of her as an adult, which you were left to assume that was her as a kid. For a while, I was like, was that her? Or
I
was that
figured it
some other
was.
kid? But anyway.
You go from that scene to just her. I have to assume it's
Yeah.
her as a kid.
But from there, we go to her as an adult, and we have this case going that isn't the Longlegs case, but
Nope.
it kind of makes you think it is at first.
Yeah.
Which is what confused me. So
Because it just seems like it is when
Yeah. And
now
that's
she's
why I was like,
FBI
wait,
or
that's
whatever.
not her as a kid, because you think it's her, and then, oh, it's cops solving a murder. So you're like, oh, so that girl at the beginning died, so that wasn't her. So it's confusing, deliberately so,
Yeah.
I think. But anyway. And then that whole opening part is just so she can be like, I'm psychic. Sometimes. Which is so
Somewhat.
Stephen King coded.
50-50 psychic.
Yeah, so Stephen King coded, where she's just got The Shining for some reason. And yeah, and that whole first part
I feel like he's in there.
is so bad. Where, first of all, her cop partner walks like he's got, like, bow legs or something. Like, there's no way he's actually a cop. He doesn't look natural. And then she's running around in high heels. And then when her partner gets shot in the face, she ducks up against the window.
Yeah, that was bad.
And it's like...
I was expecting him to, like, shoot at the window and just miss her.
Yeah.
Or, like, break out the window and that to be something. But no,
he just went and sat on his bed and went,
I surrender after killing the one cop.
Yeah.
I know there's usually two, but...
Yeah.
You take
so
me in.
that whole first section right there was terrible. And so I went from going, oh, this movie's really good, to oh, this movie's really bad, and then it leveled off and was pretty good for a long while after that. But that opening, that was bad. I was like, what are we doing? And like I said, that whole part is just to set up that she's psychic. We could have said that. We didn't have to show it in that scene. And I know, show don't tell, yada yada yada, but like, either show it in a different way or just don't have like other case like that. It was so sloppily done. I just didn't like it. Okay. Does that make sense? Like, just don't do that. And then, you know, she gets moved to the Longlegs case, and Longlegs, like I said, they don't know how he's killing these people because there's no forensic connection. Like, there's no DNA. There's no evidence of him being involved.
It all seems like family annihilation, except for his
letters that he leaves behind that are coded like he's copying every other serial killer of all time. And
it's completely Zodiac.
So she gets put on the case. She goes, what's the connection? And he's like, nothing, other than they have the same birthday.
Yeah, they all have a daughter with a birthday on the 14th.
What is that? What? Okay, cool. And then, meanwhile, she's studying all night, and he goes, don't look too long. And she goes, I look just long enough. I know his coding. All she has to go on are his letters, and she just figures it out. Because there's 666, which she had to look up in her Bible, by the way.
Well, because it's the first, because all the other letters are just codes, and this one actually has letters attached to it. So she just starts trying to decipher. The 666 thing was weird, but it made sense to me that now they have letters. She can start to try to decipher and try to break down words from the cipher.
Was there a code there? Because I didn't.
Well, it was just English letters above the characters, and now you can have associations with those characters and try to break down letters and try to figure out his alphabets.
That makes it a little bit better.
But like before that, they were all just completely coded.
But still, that all happens so fast.
Yeah, but that was a good scene though, where he drops off the letter.
That was the best scene in the movie.
Yeah.
We'll double back to it.
Yeah.
But like, after she knows how to decipher the code, she then only deciphers 2 letters.
Yeah, no, it kind of dropped that real quickly.
And it was just like, oh, that doesn't matter anymore. It was just, he left her a letter which she deciphers that had something to do with her mom and milking.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna like cut off your mommy milker's tits, your mom's milker tits. It said it was milk or something. I was weird.
I'm gonna milk your mom dry, something like that. It wasn't mommy milkers. It definitely didn't say that.
It said mom and milkers. I don't fucking know, man.
And then at the next murder site she goes to, there's a much shorter note.
Yeah, that was a real
just
short
says,
one.
download too slow, and you're like, okay. That's useless, so he's just maybe that's why she dropped translating them, because none of them meant anything.
Yeah, it was, you felt like they were gonna mean something, and it was just the next one, real short, and then never again.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh, everything's marked by an X. I'm like, what? And then she's like, oh, see, it's an inverse triangle. That's just a triangle. And then she's like, oh, we need to go to this farmhouse. We were here years ago, and then we know, go over here. I'm like, how am I supposed to solve any of this mystery? You're just telling me stuff as you figure it out that we had no part in, you know? And so it's like, that's where it wasn't a mystery. It just pretended to be one, and just went, stuff. And I was like, okay.
I really love her figuring out the inverted triangle.
Yeah,
she puts on a calendar
on
like a Scantron sheet if you ever took those tests in high school or whatever. And it's just like, all right, I put the 14th here, and now I highlight in the bubble for each one of the murder dates. And oh, if I fold the paper in half, the bottom half of the paper is a triangle.
Yeah, I was expecting it to make like a pentagram or something, but no, it was just a diamond.
I thought it was gonna be the circle with the sixes for the first one, and then just like the
make, but
I mean, it would have been a little more interesting.
It would have been, because all it was a diamond that she then folded in half.
Ignores the top.
Look, 2 triangles, one's inverted. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Forget the top. Inverted triangle at the bottom, though.
All of the biblical references in this made no sense either, by the way. So at one point, we're skipping well into the movie at this point, but they're like, they've captured the bad guy, and then they're like, so how are you connected to him, and what does he know, yada yada yada. And she just goes silent and then starts quoting Revelation about the beast coming out of the lake. Has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Literally at all. And then they go, that's Revelations, right? And she goes, it's Revelation. There's no S. I'm like, what the
Just
fuck?
one.
Yeah, I'm like all I can figure is that while Oz Perkins was writing this, he wrote Revelations, and then somebody looked over his shoulder and was like, motherfucker, there's no S. And he was like, oh, okay. And he changed it all snooty like, and I was like, why did you do that? Like, you remember at Calvary when they did that to us.
Yeah.
If anybody says Revelations, they owe you a cup of coffee. And I was like, what are we doing here? This is so silly and so
was
cheesy.
hilarious.
And I still want to know what the mark, or not even the mark of the beast itself had to do with anything. And it's like, they also allude to the man downstairs, and he's like, and he's the man downstairs. He ends up being literally the man downstairs, but he keeps alluding to, there is a man downstairs. It's not him though, because he's alluding to him. Who is he? Satan?
Like, I understood there was some spirituality. There's clearly some mystic shit with her having some amount of foresight. You clearly saw this satanic silhouette when stuff was happening.
Yeah.
But I really thought it was gonna stay semi-grounded, like he had more of a role and it just wasn't the devil. I make these dolls,
Yeah.
they're imbued with the devil, and then the devil does everything.
Yeah.
It really dropped the interest of the mystery for me.
Yeah, when it just became silly devil shit. And that's why I was saying in the non-spoiler section, if that was your choice to go full demonic,
Yeah.
okay, I'll go with you, but you have to make it interesting. And it wasn't. You have these dolls, like voodoo dolls, because they're using real hair, so I'm assuming it's the real hair of the girl that he would get somehow. I don't know.
But don't forget
And
about
then
the metal balls.
The metal balls that are empty, trust me, I didn't open it, but trust me, it's empty, but when you scan it, it makes demonic sounds.
Oh, and last night it was saying, I could have sworn it was saying my wife's name over and over again.
That's
But
weird.
I was just tired, you know.
It couldn't have been anything. You're going to the shrink later. Take me with you, please.
Nah.
And it's just like, it was so silly at times, where it's like this movie was so damn cool when it wanted to be, that it just made the silly moments so painful.
Yeah.
Because like the whole doll shit, I could have done without. He could have just been like,
It was interesting up until the silver ball.
yeah.
And then them looking like the kids and being gifts, it kind of became interesting again. And
Yeah.
then the dolls were the things that just drove everyone to madness, and that wasn't. I mean, it was well acted in the final scene, but it wasn't that interesting.
Yeah, I was literally only invested again because it was a little exciting, you
Yeah.
know, where it's just like, oh, people are dying. Also, by the way, did you know if you shoot somebody in the head when they're standing in front of a window, the window won't break. Blood will get all over the window because the back of their head exploded, but the bullet, where did it go?
Well,
It's dissolved.
You see, no, okay. The head caught the bullets, but only up until like halfway. It got like halfway out the back and then stopped. So this brain just splat out, but then, the bullet stopped. You just pulled it out the back of the head,
Right, yes. Of
Powerful
course.
skulls, man.
I did love that moment, the writing in that moment between the now possessed husband and wife, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go get the cakes. I guess I should get something to cut them. And she's like, do you need to cut them? And he's like, what the fuck else would I do with them?
Yeah, I need to go cut the fucking case. It's your fucking suggestion.
It wasn't even my idea. All right, I'm going to the kitchen. You're coming with me. All right, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You won't be. You'll still be in the kitchen.
And like, he's clearly possessed. The kid's clearly possessed because
They're
all
all-
she's doing is
yeah.
staring at the doll. And at first, honestly, I couldn't tell if the wife was
Oh, she totally was, yeah.
possessed or just like acting strange because everyone else is acting strange. But then it's like, oh, she's like fading in and out of like realizing she's about to be killed, but going along with it anyway because she's possessed.
Yeah, she's like choking on something. and
Yeah.
this whole- yeah. No, that was fun and interesting. I think the problem was it felt like two different movies where it's like you've got like a Seven style mystery thriller thing going,
And I enjoyed that.
And then you're like, and now Satan,
And I
the
lost
more,
interest.
And the more they dropped it in there, like you see like the shadowy figure I'm like, eh.
And I was somewhat fine with the shadowy figure, although it did make me realize that they were probably going to go real mystical on it. I had hope that maybe it was just, you know, he's a Satan worshiper.
Yeah, that's what I want. I just wanted, and they mentioned
it's just
Manson.
Dark. We're just being symbolic here.
Yeah, and they mentioned Manson, and I was totally ready for Nick Cage to just be, you know, somehow poisoning their minds, not literally.
Yeah, have followers. I've definitely seen. I think there was a TV show. If I might be remembering this completely wrong, but I think there was a TV show that had stuff like that. And he's basically like a Charles Manson serial killer. Like he's teaching people how to be killers, and he's convincing people to go out and commit murders and such. That's what this kind of felt like it could have become.
Yeah.
And I guess in a very slight sense it was with the accomplice. I guess we're in spoilers now. So the mother, the accomplice. The main character's mother, by the way.
But that was so hard to buy into, and I really would have rathered, honestly, them jump the shark the full way, and there be like a demonic creature killing people.
It would have made it more interesting if it was like he was possessed by this demonic creature or something that just got free afterwards. No, I like her being roped in. I don't like the doll doing all the stuff.
Yeah.
But I like her being roped into the killing.
I didn't mind her being roped in. That's why I say where it felt like they were caught between two stories where they still wanted to be semi-grounded, and that's why they did the doll shit, but that's where they lost me because it wasn't doing enough, where I'm like, and I hate horror movies that it always, no matter how cool the setup of the horror movie is these days, it almost always results in a CGI monstrosity killing people.
Yeah.
Like the movie Smile, I love that movie for the first 80 minutes, and then it becomes a CGI monstrosity attacking people, and I'm like, it was so good until that point, and that's kind of what I actually would have preferred though in this situation over these dumb dolls. I would have rather been like the man downstairs that he keeps alluding to is like the Babadook or something, and like because you find out that he's the man downstairs because he's living in their basement, but then I'm like, once I saw that, I'm like, so is there a secret compartment beneath the basement and there's a demon in there? And I guess he's probably just alluding to Satan being in downstairs, but like I would have honestly preferred some sort of monster killing people than what we got at the end. It was just And then, of course, they don't destroy the last doll, so we can make sequels in the future if we want. I'm just like,
there's not gonna be sequels, but that is the hope, you know. Because now the daughter escaped, but the daughter's doll is still alive, so who knows?
And that's where it's frustrating. It's like it starts so good, and we can finally double back to that scene. Oh man, that scene was glorious. Like, you saw me. I just had a huge smile on my face that whole scene. I was like, yes, horror! Because so she gets home and she of course lives in the most horror themed house you could ever live
randomly in the woods, big windows.
Reminded me of the house in my movie.
Yeah,
and
it
then
did.
The knock on the thing, and I was like, aha! It was very, very similar to something I tried to do. Did it much better than I did it though. But so she's there, she's talking on the phone with her mom, and then you just. It's not a knock at first. She hears like a whispering thing that she keeps hearing throughout the movie. Yeah. And so she's like, I gotta go. And she hangs up.
She starts to realize something's out there.
Yeah, it's like something's out there. Then there's a knock, really like, ooh. And she goes, hello? Doesn't hear anything. So then she goes over to the window, turns on the light, and nothing is there, but then she sees something standing off in the woods. Yeah. So then she goes out into the woods.
Like every horror person ever. Just
and then
out into the woods, leaves the door open.
And then as she's outside looking around, you see, and it never goes into focus. It's blurry the whole time, even after she notices that somebody walking around in her house. So then she goes back in, and that's when the letter is left there. And I was like, oh my god, that whole scene. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it because the scene was so well done. That scene, the very, very first part with Nicolas Cage, his face being cut off, those two moments were perfect 10s. And it annoys me that the whole movie couldn't have been as good as just those two moments.
We had to get real spiritual with it. Couldn't keep it that grounded.
Well, even other outside of that, the moments just weren't consistently good. Like, there was just weird, quirky dialogue moments, like the guy we mentioned that is like operating on the dole, talking about his ex-wife or whatever. I'm just like, what the hell is this scene? And then when she's interrogating, or not even interrogating, just talking to the insane girl in the asylum, that whole part was supposed to be creepy and was just flat to me. At no point did I find any of that. And like literally, the scene's supposed to be scary because immediately then cuts away to her like washing her face in the sink because she's like trying to calm down. I'm like, she was like, I'm gonna kill you and I wouldn't mind it at all. I'm like, what are we doing? Like her little accent and her way of speaking was just like, it was just not and like, I know there's a lot of horror that's like cutesy things are scary now. She wasn't cutesy enough to fall into that category though. She just wasn't scary.
I feel like it's hard to do that sort of I'm young and innocent but also psychotically crazy quietly.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that quite a few times before, and it just doesn't have that effect anymore on us.
Yeah. So, overall, I still really enjoyed moments of it, but I just wish there was, frankly, better writing, because everything else about the movie is fine. The directing, phenomenal. The camera work, great.
Yeah.
The acting, other than a couple of weird moments, really good. Scoring, great too, by the way. So much of it's so good. It was just the plot that was so weak at times that it was very... just frustrating to me, honestly, where I'm like, that was good, not great, but it should have been great.
It does make me want to watch 7 again, though.
7's a much better movie.
Yeah.
And
it does give
Silence
me a
of the
little bit of the
Lambs.
vibe until it gets mystical. And it just makes me want to go watch the one that stayed grounded and great.
Yeah. I wish we had a more nuanced performance than what Nicolas Cage gave us, because, like, there's things hinted at where it's like his weird persona is because he's obsessed with like this rock and roll image or whatever, and I think that's also because like he sings a couple of times and then he's just screaming randomly, and it's like I get all of these decisions. I don't know, they weren't like
It's
the moment,
not the right guy.
Yeah, the moment Nicolas Cage starts singing, you lost me.
Yeah,
you know,
it drags you right out the movie.
And there's like footage where it's like, so they interrogated him separately and now they're replaying the tape, and it was set up like a scene from The Dark Knight, where it's like, see, here's footage of Heath Ledger as the Joker, and they're all sitting back like, whoa, this is horrifying, and even the main character's like crying a little bit, and then it's cutting to Nicolas Cage, happy birthday. I'm like, and you lost me. Like, and that's where I'm trying to be objective. Like, if that was a real person in real life, that's how psychopaths do act. You ever see Charles Manson? He was psychotic and not particularly scary, but it's because you know what he's capable of. That's what makes him scary. So it's like, if you put yourself in that, then it's like, okay, it's not funny, but it is funny.
It's Nick Cage.
It is, and it's hilarious, and like, oh, it's frustrating. By the way, I called she was gonna die because of the window, which is hilarious.
Oh, yeah, you did call that.
So the whole movie, I was noticing that every time they're in the car talking, they were filming from outside the car through a window with heavy reflections. Normally, well, not normally, I shouldn't say normally, but a lot of times they'll CGI windows in, have the windows down, CGI them in, so you don't have to worry about all the reflections. So I was just noticing, the windows are always up.
Yeah.
Nothing really to note other than that's just an artistic choice. Until they're going back to the mom's house, both windows are down. I went, well, something involving the windows is happening. And sure enough, she got shot. Granted, you could have had the window closed to shoot them, but it's easier when it's open. It's like, it's so weird when you notice little quirks like that, where you're like, you're really just gonna give away what's gonna happen with something like that? I know most people aren't insane and won't notice or care about that stuff, but I noticed. I'm insane.
I mean, I could tell something was about to happen,
right?
And I easily could tell something was going to happen to her.
Yeah.
But I would not have gotten, oh, it's going to happen right now in this car because the windows are open. I didn't catch that now. Like, the windows were up the entire time. No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. It was funny because, like I say, oh, the windows are down, something's going to happen. And then it cuts back to her and somebody's walking in. I'm like, well, that was fast.
Yeah. She's like, she gets to the window. It's like, oh, Mom? Sitting in the outfit behind.
I will say the biggest, because there weren't any major twists that surprised me or I didn't see coming, except for his lair being underneath their house. That did surprise me.
Yeah, I would not have, because you did guess there was a connection between the family and him, but not that deep. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting because, like, I already mentioned it, but because when they showed the mom, she was dressed similarly to him, had her hair similarly to him, and that's why I went, I bet they're married.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that, but she was a part of his, like, cult now or whatever. So I guess that's why they were dressed similarly. But, yeah, I didn't expect him to be living in their house. I guess I should have when the one door was locked and they didn't. Because, like, there was obviously something nefarious going on because a bug came crawling out of there and then she couldn't get inside.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't think it was him down there. I thought it was going to be, like, a doll in there or a dead body or something. I didn't think it was going to be...
A doll would have made sense because he was there to drop off the doll at the beginning.
Yeah, that was the other part of my theory on why he was trying to kill her. I thought it was like that's where it started, was that he was possessed to kill his family, but as long as he's killing other families, he's like paying off a debt to Satan so that he doesn't have to kill his family. I don't know. I was expecting something in that direction. I did think it was cool that the credits were in reverse order.
Yeah, it was interesting. I would not have caught that either, but...
Which is like, it's satanic because of the upside down cross, but there weren't any upside down crosses in this movie. All the crosses were right side up.
But it was the upside down triangle.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. The inverted triangle, which is just a triangle.
What is inverted?
Look, an inverted circle. Still a circle.
Hey. That's different, okay? It's the same inverted. Now, let's not talk about those inverted trapezoids. That's some devilish shit right there.
I really was expecting her to connect it and be like a pentagram, and it was just a fucking triangle.
It's just such a lame design, and I love that she had to fold it in half to make the symbol.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, let's just ignore the top half of this. That's why I thought it was going to be the ball, because I thought it was going to be like, oh, these things, if I fill in some missing circles here, and then we got the sixes over. No, but it's just...
And it was so convoluted, too. At first I thought it was like, he's killing the girls on their birthday, so it's the 14th of every month. Oh, wait, and that's what it was at first. And they're like, wait, no, sometimes he kills them within a week of their birthday, in either direction. So it's like, half the month, then. Because you've got a 2-week spread to kill. That's more coincidence at this point than anything.
And, like, I would have never guessed a pattern until she started putting it onto the Scantron. And then I'm like, oh... I wonder what kind of weird pattern this is going to form. Because, like, I had teachers that used to do that. I had always one teacher that used to do that on tests. He'd form a pattern with his answers. But just the pattern was so bad. Folded in half. Oh, the triangle.
The movie was silly.
Yet legs here.
Great at times.
Yeah.
Alright, I think I'm done. I'm tired. That's what we had to think. What did you think, though? Let me know in the comments below if you've seen it, what you thought. Also, don't forget to like, share if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.